So as you guys know, the debate between Donald J. Trump and Joe R. Biden happened 2 days ago, and I apologize for not uploading yesterday. I just didn't have the time, scrambling to figure stuff out, and blah, 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 but I sincerely apologize. I'm back again, and we're going to react to the debate. I'm going to watch it, see what took place. When I was in the gym as it was taking place, I kind of watched it, and I wasn't very happy with Joe's performance. I kind of expected things to go the way that they did. But we'll dive into it and take it apart piece by piece.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so I want to stop it here. This is part of the reason why Joe Biden should not be debating. Joe Biden did not create 15,000 new jobs at all, okay? Joe Biden created 15 million more new jobs. So automatically, Joe Biden is sabotaging himself. You did not, Joseph Robinette Biden, you did not create 15,000 new jobs. You created 15 million, okay? But because you're not physically and mentally primed enough for this competition, you're sabotaging yourself, Get off the... Bro, Trump has no shame in not debating any of the other Republican candidates. Did you see Trump up there with Vivek and Haley? And DeSantis is a snake. And then, what's the other individual's name who was running up there? I forget who the other person was. But that's besides the point. Donald Trump wasn't there. And we know why. Because Trump didn't even want to risk being... So about those legal battles and about this and about... He didn't want to risk being made a fool out of. So he said, I'll fall back. Biden, if you know you don't have much to gain from a debate, just fall back. Just fall back. Why put yourself in, especially when you're highlighting your accomplishments and you aren't even able to properly quantify them? It wasn't 15,000, it was 15 million, but we'll keep watching. Lord have mercy.
From a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's my biggest issue with Biden. Part of debating, and I can say this because I'm a somewhat seasoned debater. I probably had about maybe 11 or 12 online debates. So I can kind of throw my weight around slightly. I'm not going to act like I'm some veteran, but I've had enough debates to know that part of a debate is not exactly whether what you're saying is true or not, which we're about to find out with Donald. Part of a debate is how you sound. Do you sound believable? Do you sound as though whether it's true or not, the bull or the truth coming out of your mouth, does it sound convincing? Does it sound believable? Do I, as an American citizen, hear you talk and feel reassured, even if you're just spewing out nonsense, even if you're lying? Can I believe you when I listen to you? Joe Biden sounds like he died and the Democrats all grabbed shovels to dig him back up and put him on the debate stage. I'm just facts. Joe Biden does not sound convincing. Now, for high information voters or viewers like myself, I don't mean to sound, arrogant, but I keep up with politics as best I can. The stuff he's saying doesn't sound like bullshit to me because I know he's not lying. But his voice, it sounds so weak. It sounds so meek. It sounds devoid of any energy, any convincing aura that I know that Trump, who's more than likely about to lie, is going to sound 10 times more believable. And this is another reason why Joe Biden should not be debating.
President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President.
Okay, so like Donald Trump, as I predicted, just starts saying anything. My economy was the greatest of... No. Donald Trump's economy was not the greatest in American history. It just wasn't. Like, it just was not. Like, this is not true. This is not true in any capacity, but... This is Donald Trump, so what can we expect? Now, I will say this. Trump was right about the mandates, but the rambling about there was no wars, it was amazing, the stock market, everybody was saying it. Everybody was saying we were so amazing. That's not an answer. They asked you, what are you going to be doing about inflation? And Joe Biden answered, but the reality is Joe Biden has tried to pass bills. They asked him, what are you going to do about inflation? Joe Biden has tried to pass price gouging bills. Joe Biden has passed tax cuts for families and workers and average everyday Americans, trying to make sure that the ultra wealthy pay their fair share. Joe Biden has actively done his best, and you can look them up. You can look up the bills he's passed. You can look up the tax cuts he's got passed. You can look these things up. To be fair to Trump, he's not in office, so there's nothing he can really do right now. However, my issue with Donald Trump in this exchange was he didn't say, look, this is a situation, here's what I'm going to do to fix it. He instead starts rambling about how amazing everything was before COVID. Okay, COVID happened. It happened. So now what I need from you as a candidate to tell me is what you're going to do to improve things once you get into office. This guy, Joseph Biden, he's president. So he's been able to pass bills and all this stuff to try to mitigate the downsides of the downfalls of COVID. Since you're not the seated president, Donald, despite the fact that you've been causing chaos as if you were, I'll give you a pass. You're not in office, so you can't do anything. But what I need from you as a candidate, as someone who wants to be president again, is to at least tell me and the rest of the American people, what are you going to do about inflation? I'm curious. So that I'm going to have to give this exchange to Joe Biden off the facts alone. But Trump sounds way more convincing.
President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, than any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump,
Okay, gotta call out Joe Biden. That's not true. We just lost like 3 troops in Iraq that were killed by Iranian proxies, and then we lost 2 Navy SEALs. One who slipped off a ship trying to take out the Houthis and drowned, and then another one who tried to jump in and save him who also drowned. So I believe we've lost 2 Navy SEALs and 3 U.S. Army soldiers. It is not true that Joe Biden's presidency has presided over a 0 loss of life. I don't know what he's referring to when he says that. The Afghanistan pullout cost us a few Marines. I can't remember how many. A few, I think double-digit Marines. I think we lost a lot of Marines with the Afghanistan pullout. So we lost double-digit Marines, we lost 2 SEALs, and we lost 3 U.S. Army soldiers. So I don't think that Joe Biden had 0 combat deaths under his presidency. I don't know if Donald Trump's going to take advantage of this and spin it on him, or we'll see.
I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. Now, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record.
Okay, so Donald Trump is right that the Afghanistan pullout was an absolute botch. However, the reality is, I know we want to believe the president is responsible for everything, but neither Joe Biden nor Trump would have personally overseen that pullout. Like, no, Joe Biden was not personally there. Trump probably wouldn't have been personally there either. The people responsible for the absolute chaos of the Afghanistan pullout would have to be the commanding officers, the generals on the ground. As it pertains to the tax cuts, the reality is that Trump's tax cuts did absolutely nothing for the average American. It saved the wealthy about $60,000. It only saved the non-wealthy about $500 in tax cuts. It didn't do anything, and then the promise was, oh, well, these tax cuts are going to increase your earnings, American citizen. And what ended up happening was, if you didn't make anything more than 6 figures, you weren't gaining any. There was no change in income. You weren't gaining more. You weren't gaining shit. So the reality is, no, Trump's tax cuts did not have some amazing impact on the economy. He talked about Joe Biden can't take credit for all of these new jobs. Yes, he can. He's the president. Like, the same way I didn't hold you accountable for like the economy right now because you're not president, I still have to look at what Biden did, his handling of the economy, and credit it. The reality is that unemployment is at what, like, I believe it's been below 4% for the last 2 years. The longest, like, good streak since the war in Vietnam. Like, hello, you can't just sit there and talk about, oh, you can't take credit for all these new jobs. Why not? The infrastructure bill he passed more than likely brought about a whole bunch of jobs as well. Why can't this man take credit for building back the American economy and American jobs after COVID, a historical event that damaged our economy? Why? You can't do that. Like, why can't he do that? I don't understand. Like, but yeah, I mean, with foreign policy like the Afghanistan pullout, it's easy for presidents to act like, oh, but if I was in charge or da-da-da-da-da. There's really no guarantee that under Donald Trump that pullout would have been perfect. There's just no guarantee. I don't really look at Joe Biden differently for that, because the reality is there's other people whose direct job is to make sure these things go correctly. It's not Joe Biden's direct job to make sure the Afghanistan pullout went 100% smoothly. You know, this is a place we've been at war in for 20 years. Of course things didn't go smooth. And I wouldn't have expected it to go smooth under Trump either, because things happen. it's just the way it is.
Highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect.
Joe Biden looks lost. Joe Biden with his mouth open, staring around. You gotta sharpen your face. Do not. Joe Biden, we already think you're not on Earth, so don't make us believe you're not here. Like, try to remind us that someone's home, like moving the shift and shit. Like, don't be over there gazing out into the ether, and like, please come back to Atlanta, Georgia. Please debate Uncle Trump. Please. Trump sitting there talking about some, the
United States anymore. We're like a third world nation under his administration, even though.
Trump sitting there talking about some, more people died under your administration than mine. Trump, you were only president with COVID for like a year. Of course, the president who's been presiding over COVID for 4 years is going to have more COVID deaths than the president presiding over COVID for 1 year. Obviously. This is not a matter of debate. Trump is right about the mandates as it pertains to the economy, but saying like, more people died under his administration. It's like, well, you were only there under COVID for 1 year. Yeah, he was president he's been president for 4 years post-COVID. You were only presiding over COVID for 1 year. The idea that because more people died under his watch than under your watch, that all of a sudden says something about how you handled COVID is just not possible. Since you were only around under COVID for 1 year. It doesn't work like that. But Trump gonna throw stuff out there, and you gotta be ready for him, because he's gonna say anything.
More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
Here's the problem with Donald Trump's statement about we're becoming a third world country, attacking political opponents. Donald Trump was not convicted of federal charges. He was charged by the state of New York. And then It wasn't good enough. Oh, it's in New York. No one likes me in New York. No one votes Republican in New York. So like what you like, you committed crimes, which we know to be true. You keep crying about federal charges, which you did not face. Then when we're like, okay, no, it wasn't federal, it was New York, then it's, well, no one likes me in New York. The reality is Donald Trump has not been convicted of any federal charges. Zero. So when he sits there and says the weaponization of the justice system, that's a lie. Republicans will say this to convince their voters that the justice system is attacking Donald Trump. It's not. Donald Trump has committed crimes and he was convicted of those crimes. It's that simple. But he wasn't convicted by the feds. He was convicted by the state of New York. He has not been convicted of a single federal charge. Not one. Not one. Zero. And for him to talk about third world country, sir, excuse me. You're the one who tweeted out when the looting starts, the shooting starts. You're the one who said you didn't get a thank you for giving John McCain the funeral he wanted. You're the one who sat there and talked about shithole countries. You're the one who spoke about how Megyn Kelly is bleeding out of her whatever. You're the one who tried to use January 6th to your advantage. You are the vanguard of third world order in this country. You are the one bringing forth third world behavior and activity into this country. Your goons in the House of Representatives have obstructed so many bills. We haven't passed this few bills since the Great Depression, and we're on track to having passed so few bills since the Civil War, since we were shooting at each other. So for you, Donald John Trump, for you to talk about third world country, you a damn lie. You are a liar. You are a literal liar, a lying liar that lies. At least admit that you want a third world. Like, admit that you want a Christian, nationalist, soon-to-be white supremacist nation. Just say that. Instead of trying to point the third world finger at Joseph Robinette Biden, at least admit that you have attempted really wacko stuff since you've been in office. You have ushered in the most ghetto presidency of all time. So for you to talk about, it's an embarrassment. January 6th was an embarrassment. The Afghanistan pullout was a disaster, but January 6th was just disgusting. And how long it took you to actually condemn the rioters and stop them is insane. You've done, Donald Trump, you have done so much wild shit since January 6th. For you to levy the third world accusation against anyone, especially after the shit you just pulled like 2-3 weeks ago, saying that Joe Biden tried to kill you, even though we know that the FBI has standard protocol for lethal force for every house that they raid, even Joe Biden's house, even though they raided the house when you weren't there. They showed up to Mar-a-Lago when you weren't there. They alerted your Secret Service attachment to let them know, hey, we're showing up for the documents you've been trying to keep from us. You lied about Biden trying to kill you, but you want us to believe he's the one ushering in a third world order. Let me stop before I get mad at Trump, bro.
Immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an
opportunity. Oh, hold up. Immigration. I'm not done talking. Don't let Donald Trump sit there and talk about they're letting in crazy people. Donald Trump literally sat there and took credit for destroying a border bill that Joe Biden admitted to signing. Joe Biden said, you know what, Republicans, you can make a border bill. I'll sign it. You make one. I'll sign it. It was so conservative that Joe Biden would have had the power to shut down the border in a state of an overflow. That's how conservative it was. And Joe Biden said, I'll sign it. You want to know who stopped that bill from being passed? Donald Trump. So as he sits here and says they're letting in crazy people, criminals, understand that Donald Trump stopped that border bill from being passed. And some of you might ask, well, why would he do that? The reality is Republicans don't really have much to run on anymore. They've got religious nonsense, anti-crime, which I gotta admit, I like that. They're anti-crime, tough on crime. And then the border stuff. If Joe Biden tackles border issues, Donald Trump's left with the abortion problem, which he's always kind of hot potatoing. Like, okay, the states can have it. I don't want to talk about this in the states. Crime. I mean, that's a good one. I'll be fair. But the border, if Trump loses the border, he's cooked. He's cooked. So what he did was, instead of prioritizing the American people's need for a secure border, he prioritized himself with the help of all the goons of his in Washington, and they tanked that bill that they themselves wrote and were going to sign. They are his slaves. They are his henchmen. They are his, what do we be saying? Black people, his peons. They his little peons. Just keep it real, bro. Like, they are his little peons. They peons. They just do they're his flunkies. They do whatever he says. If Donald Trump say jump off the cliff, backflip, front flip, somersault, split, cartwheel, they gonna do it all. If he tell them to do it, they gonna do it. I'm telling you.
Opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, or 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with.
Trump is on him. Trump senses weakness.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Damn, he was stuttering for so long, he lost his minute. You know, the reality is Donald Trump doesn't really have a tax cut plan for the average American. He doesn't. Y'all need to face it. I know there's Trumpers that watch my channel. I know y'all here. I know you're here. Your boy does not have any like plan for yo ass. Joe Biden does. I have to be real. I have to be fair here. Furthermore, I got to call out Joe. Joe, you're messing up numbers. There's 1,000 trillionaires. No, 1,000 billionaires. You corrected yourself, but you can't be tripping like this. When you can't even quantify things properly, when you're tripping over your words, the American people are going to feel like you're not telling the truth. They're going to feel like what you're saying isn't true. It could be true. It more than likely is true. It is true. But Donald Trump, being the more convincing speaker, can completely blow that over just by saying anything. It's just the facts. It's absolutely the facts. The reality is the wealthy do pay a significantly lower percentage of taxes than the average American. It's true. Donald Trump does not have a plan for that. In fact, he plans to cut taxes for the wealthy. That's just a fact. But Joe Biden is so past his prime that he can't even communicate that to the American people effectively.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Yeah, so it's not true that illegal immigrants, I had to look that one up. They're not eligible for Social Security either. This is all just cap. Like, this is all just like Trump is just saying shit at this stage, which I kind of knew was going to happen, but he's bold with this one. And the lack of, I want y'all to understand, mainstream media pundits don't know a thing. They don't know. I think the only one I think might know is Caitlin Collins. These pundits, these anchors, excuse me, they don't know Trump is full of shit. They don't know. They're not fact checking him. They're just letting him say stuff that's inaccurate. They don't know. And how I know they don't know is because Laura Trump came on CNN and steamrolled one of its anchors, just saying blatantly false stuff. But because these anchors aren't actually studying anything, they're just saying stuff, They're repeating whatever the writers and CNN and the people who are actually keeping up with the news every day are telling them to say. They're unprepared for Trump. He's just lying. Just lying. Then he sits there and says, oh, Joe Biden's going to destroy Social Security. I need y'all to understand. Trump's henchmen in Washington tried to cut Social Security. They also tried to raise the age of retirement. These people are not your friends. When he sits there and says, oh, I'm going to cut, Joe Biden's going to destroy Social Security and Medicare. His henchmen are pushing to cut these things. They are. You can look it up. It's true. Do not let Donald Trump misinform you. It is not true that Joe Biden's trying to destroy Social Security, but House Republicans have actively tried to cut these things, to cut funding to these things. It's the truth. Y'all can't just believe what Trump say just because he sounds convincing. It's one of the unfortunate realities of having to deal with Trump is that so much of what he says is verifiably false. And whenever you try to correct a lie, you have to do double the work and it's less convincing. People don't want to have to double back to what they heard and X it out as being false. People want to be able to hear something and think it's true and be able to be resolute and secure in the fact that it's true. Unfortunately, it's not true. Unfortunately, it's false. But it's so hard to correct misinformation.
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this and getting into other things. But every
I
legal
love Trump, bro. I love Uncle Trump, bro. I don't give a fuck what y'all say. He may be a liar, but he's a funny one, bro. I love Trump, bro. Please lose this year, but I love you, man.
Throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states.
I'm not even gonna lie. I think part of the reason why Joe Biden be opening his mouth is because this nigga just be lying, bro. Like, bro. Yo, how we know Donald Trump is a fucking liar is because after Roe v. Wade was overturned, Republicans have been getting their asses whooped in every election, bro. Yo, Trump be endorsing these niggas and niggas be losing. Yo, I'm gonna keep it 100. I think the only W these niggas have taken is like Jamal Bowman lost like a few days ago. Before that, but these Republicans, but there was no light in the darkness. But these niggas was lost. They couldn't. Yo, Joe Biden gotta be looking at him that way because like it's unbelievable. Like, bro, there was no massive strong push to overturn Roe. Not even George Bush tried to overturn Roe. Republicans kind of like, yeah, we fucking hate abortion, but they knew not to touch it. They knew it was a sensitive topic. They knew not to touch it. Trump is right about one thing. Religious leaders were definitely one of the ones, if not the only ones, really upset about Roe v. Wade. The reality is the American people, generally speaking, have not been pushing for Roe to be overturned. Like, it's just not true. Donald Trump appointed extremely conservative justices who are engaging in insane activity. There were rumblings about Clarence Thomas talking about possibly overturning gay marriage, which goes to show that you can't even trust these people. Trump sits there and says, I won't overturn the allowing of these abortion pills. Will you not? How far are you guys going to actually go? We don't know with y'all. We don't know how conservative you want to be. How far back in the past do you exactly want to go? Are gay people's rights protected? Are interracial couples protected? Are women protect? Like, okay, who's protected in y'all's ideal America? Is it just white men? Is it straight white men? Like, I hate to be a libtard, oh, straight white males, but I have to ask, because I can't trust these niggas, bro. I can't. Trump be lying all, but Trump lies so much, I can't, bro. If Trump say the sky is blue, I will check. I'll even take a picture of it with my phone. I will turn my picture in to the federal government and ask them, is the sky actually blue? He told me it was. I'm not sure. To be real, but bro, I can't believe anything Donald Trump tells me. I just can't. I can't. Bro, talking about some everybody wanted to go back to the States. Is that why y'all have lost almost every single election up to this point? Is that why y'all have been getting your asses whooped up to this point? Hello? The reality is that no, people have not been big fans of your overturning of Roe, and it's probably going to show in the election.
Are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing.
Joe, close your mouth.
Florida is different.
Yes,
but
he's lying,
making
but
their own decisions right now, and right now the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get...
Follow your heart. This is what we're dealing with, people who don't have the ability to place other people's rights over their own heart. They're incapable. If they feel something, it's reality. These are the same people who sat there and said, liberals, facts don't care about your feelings. They have no capacity to put their personal feelings aside for the greater good of... They're incapable. They don't know how. Bro, I don't care if it's in someone's heart that there's no scenario in which abortion is acceptable. I don't give a fuck. If a minor is pregnant, if someone's been sexually assaulted, if someone's life is in danger, you don't fucking tell them what they can or can't do with their body. That's not following your heart. That's called being an asshole. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, bro. Like, follow your heart. These are the kind of people we're dealing with. People who tradition is the only thing they think about. Your freedom, your safety, your traumas, they don't care. Zero. And Trump knows it's wrong, but his base is so insane and further radicalized that he can't control them. That's why he has to say stupid shit like, follow your heart. No, draw a line. Don't say follow your heart. Don't give them the idea that, oh yeah, this is cool. No, draw a fucking line. Stand for something at least. God.
Elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
How is the country coming together when you're losing a lot? How? Trump, stop. Bro, please. I love you, but like, stop. Furthermore, the whole governor from Virginia, this is a classic, because Alex Jones used to talk about this all the time. I don't believe the governor said they would kill the baby, but they definitely did, say like, oh, we'll figure out what to do with the baby. I don't know a single mainstream Democrat in Congress who advocates for the killing of any actual born babies. I don't know a single one. Unlike Republicans, many of whom actually do have insane beliefs on abortion, in which in no scenario should it be allowed, there are no actual Republicans passing legislation that are actively calling for babies to be aborted. Not even this governor. He can't even say the governor actually said they'd kill the baby. He just says the governor said we'll figure out what to do with the child. Which, I mean, yeah, if you have a baby that's born and the mother and the father are saying we don't want it, you got to figure out what you're going to do with the baby. Now, killing it is wrong, obviously. But he can't demonstrate any actual instance of any Democratic legislator calling for babies to be just, sliced up and diced up and just laid out on like they can't. He can't.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting.
I'm starting to understand why Joe Biden has his mouth open. No, the U.S. border is not the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Donald Trump, there is a war in Gaza going on right now. Okay? There is a war in Ukraine, which eclipses Gaza in lethality. You want me to believe that the U.S. border is the most dangerous place, or even one of the most dangerous places in the world? I'm willing to bet Iraq is still more dangerous than the U.S. border. I'm willing to bet a significant amount of money Iraq is still somewhat more dangerous. Like, Trump just says stuff like, bruh, Trump just be saying shit. How you got two wars happening and you gonna say, okay. Like, again, this is a man who thwarted a border bill for his own personal gain. I really don't like hearing Trump talk about the border because he's proven that his own presidency is far more important to him than the American people having a secure border. I don't want to hear from this man anymore. I really don't. And I'm starting to understand why Joe Biden just looks at him like that. Because it's like he just says stuff that's so false. And Biden can't interrupt him because his mic is muted. So Trump can just sit there and say stuff that we know isn't true. And Biden can only look incredulously as millions of Americans start hearing stuff that isn't true and might be influenced to vote for Trump despite the fact that what he's saying is false.
In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. that Roe v. Wade does not provide for that.
Look at Trump! Look at Trump! Bro, Trump is a lying motherfucker. Bro, no one's doing abortions after birth. It's just not happening. What more than likely is happening to these babies is they're being put up for adoption. It's just not like, bro, no one's doing this. You can't, like, Trump can't name any of this happening. It's not a normally occurring event. This isn't normal. These things don't take, like, bro, Trump just says stuff. No. He's right about one thing. Both Democrats and Republicans agree that you shouldn't kill a baby. The idea is that no, Democrats nor Joe Biden, no one is actively killing babies after they're born. They're probably being put up for adoption or being sent to the system, unfortunately. Like, that's just like the idea that somehow or another the Democrats want to kill babies. It's just Trump is trying so hard to make it seem like the Democrats are the radical ones, when in reality, no. You have the radical ones. You have the ones who want embryos to be considered children. You have the people who roll back Arizona's abortion laws to a bill from like the 1800s. Sir. That's you. That is you. You are the one who has ushered in a new era in which the 10 Commandments are being forced into classrooms. I'm a fan of Christianity, but religions have no place in schools. Because then we have to accommodate all religions, and I don't want my child being taught the 5 pillars of Islam, frankly. So, thanks to you, your goons have opened the floodgates of radicalism and chaos, and you have the audacity to say that Joe Biden's going to bring about... Okay, foolishness.
Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
Biden totally tanked what he just said there. Biden fumbled like crazy. I know what he was talking about. Biden was talking about the border bill that was meant to increase technology down there to make sure that we could detect drugs, to increase the amount of border patrol, immigration judges, all of that. And it would have given Biden the ability to shut down the border in the event of what? A crisis, which is basically what we have right now. Voice crack. You want to know, again, who's the source of the downfall of that bill? None other than your boy, I don't know which way to point, Trump. Trump knows that he tanked this bill. I wonder if he's going to acknowledge that.
we had the safest border in the history of our country. the border. All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But yeah, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world, and it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. Anymore, every state is now a border, and because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street.
Hold up. I got to look this one up. Are illegal immigrants in luxury hotels? Okay, it is true that the state of New York did spend money to house migrants in hotels. I don't know if they were luxury hotels, but they definitely did house migrants in hotels. As it pertains to the whole, Joe Biden doesn't care about veterans. Trump, do you want to explain to your voters why your congressman tried to block a bill that supports veterans? Didn't Jon Stewart have an entire crusade against legislators behind the fact that Republicans were actively blocking legislation meant to benefit veterans who were suffering from effects of chemicals in Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan? That was your base. Those were legislators under the MAGA wing who were actively blocking this legislation for veterans. I thought you guys loved veterans. Freedom, American flag, all of that. I thought y'all loved the military. What happened? How did you let that happen? How did you let your legislators actively block legislation meant to benefit veterans? I'll give Trump this. Yes, it is true that the state of New York signed a, what are we seeing here? $77 million contract with hotels to house migrant families. Trump is right that migrants were housed in hotels. I don't know if it's true that they were housed in luxury hotels, but his point still stands. New York taxpayers had to pay for migrants to be housed in hotels. There's no getting around that. I'm sorry. Trump is right about that. You can't take that away from him. But to insist that Biden doesn't care about veterans when he literally passed legislation to take care of them is just ridiculous. Trump is the one rumored to have said horrible things about veterans. Trump literally sat there and said, I like people who weren't captured when speaking about John McCain. If any other presidential candidate said that, they'd be tanked. Any other one. To speak of captured soldiers in that way is disgusting. Especially a captured troop like John McCain, who did not accept being released early because his father was a powerful admiral. McCain accepted staying with his men for a longer period of time because he would not abandon his men in captivity. Donald Trump sat there and said he's not a war hero because he was captured. This is a man who's going to lecture to us about loving our troops. Okay. Okay. The man whose actual son served our country and died as a result, no, he doesn't care. But Trump, this guy, Trump, okay. I'll give Trump the New York thing. Trump's right about that, okay? Like, if he's right, he's right.
It's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is on record saying, I like people who weren't captured. So I don't know for sure what he's capable of. I will say this. I don't know if Milley, I don't know if I think Milley was lying. Because that's not the only thing he's accused of saying. There was a disabled veteran that sang a song at an event. And according to Milley, Trump walked up to Milley and was like, don't bring that guy out here again. Nobody wants to see that. I don't know, bro, given the stuff we've heard that Trump allegedly says behind the scenes, I don't know what Unc is or isn't capable of. I just don't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Innocent until proven guilty. I'll say Trump didn't say it, but damn does Trump have a bad track record. Saying I like people who weren't captured. Then you know what he said that really pissed me off? He said, I gave him the funeral he wanted. I didn't get a thank you, but that's okay. How do you, as the president, even bring yourself to speak of a veteran's funeral and a statesman's funeral in that way? How? This is the kind of stuff that makes me pause when Trump denies certain things. I never said that. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. Innocent until proven guilty, but bro, the stuff you have said is crazy. It shows the complete lack of respect he has for the military. Whether or not he said that about the Marines in France, I don't know. I'm not going to say he did. But given what he has said, I can't say that I think Milley was being a malicious liar. We'll just have to assume Trump didn't say it for the sake of fairness, but Trump has a horrible track record of speaking about veterans.
So much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
So Trump didn't answer the question. I'm gonna cut it off here. I'm gonna cover this, but then I'm gonna wrap it up because we're at an hour and 13 minutes, and I don't know how much time YouTube is actually gonna process on the upload. I think I'll do a part 2. But notice Trump doesn't answer the question. This is important. She asks him, and CNN ain't shit for this. They're bums. They need to replace them with me. Trump is asked, okay, Vladimir Putin says that he won't end the war in Ukraine unless the territory he took is ceded to him and Ukraine cannot join NATO. Instead of Donald Trump answering the question, he engages in what we call fan fiction. He sits there and says, well, if I were in office, none of these things would have happened. He sits there and says, well, if I was in office, none of these things would have ever happened. There is you can't prove this. The question was simple. What would you do about Vladimir Putin's basically like ultimatum? Because what Vladimir Putin basically saying is this: I will only stop this war if you reward me with more land and you keep Ukraine out of NATO so that when we resupply, refit, re-strategize, we can re-invade again. The reason why it's so important for Ukraine to join NATO is so that when Vladimir Putin eventually tries to invade again, he probably won't. The reason why it's so important for Ukraine to join NATO is so that Vladimir Putin can no longer invade Ukraine. If Ukraine has a settled border dispute and rejoins NATO, if Russia invades again, Ukraine will activate Article 5, and every NATO nation state will be forced to fight in their war, and we will defeat Russia. They can't beat Ukraine, much less all of NATO. Forget all of the EU would whoop their ass, much less the United States. Donald Trump knows that by rewarding Vladimir Putin in this way, he would be showing insane weakness. But that is his plan. It is his plan. And how we know it's his plan is because Viktor Orban, the current leader of Viktor Orban, the current leader of Hungary, mess that up. He left Mar-a-Lago saying insane shit. Ukraine won't be getting another penny, is what he said. Donald Trump wasn't even the president when Orban visited Mar-a-Lago, and Orban leaves Mar-a-Lago talking like he runs shit, like he run the show around here, talking about some Ukraine won't be getting any more money. Who in the fuck is you? Who is he? You know who he is? He's an individual who was constantly trying to block Sweden and Finland from joining NATO. Orban is a Russian asset. Let's just keep it 100. He's a bum. And he leaves Mar-a-Lago talking about, oh, you know, not another penny or cent for Ukraine. So we already know what type of timing Trump is on. He is going to try everything in his power to enable and strengthen Vladimir Putin. He is going to try to force Ukraine to accept whatever deal Putin puts forth by cutting funding from Ukraine, trying to blackmail them. I won't keep funding your self-defense if you don't give me the deal I want. If you don't give me and Vlad what we want, because I want the war to end so I look like the amazing negotiator, even though the war is just being kicked down, the can's being kicked down the road, that doesn't matter, because the only thing that matters to Trump is his own self-aggrandizement. Trump is going to force Ukraine to take an unbelievable L in exchange for his own personal gain and Vladimir Putin's gain. And well, I'll tell you what'll happen. It won't work. It won't work. You can't force Ukraine to surrender because Europe is still going to arm and support them. What will end up happening is America will lose its negotiating power in the conflict, because effectively what we would have done is said, hey, look, we're with Putin. Give him the land, and you can't join NATO. So if he invades again, you're still on your own. Bye. At that point, Ukraine and the EU will no longer listen to us on anything regarding Ukraine at all, period. And they won't even have any faith in us as it pertains to NATO. What probably will end up happening is the EU will become a geopolitical force that can rival us in military strength, and then we'll lose our political leverage in Europe. If Donald Trump does what I know he's planning to do, because he refused to answer the question, because he knows if he answers it, everyone's going to shit on him. Donald Trump's plan for Ukraine will cost the United States its geopolitical influence in Europe, I swear to God. It will. And that's why he wouldn't answer the question. And see, the CNN, they don't even force him to come back to the question. He sits there and says, well, under me, this would have never happened. We don't know if that's true. All I'm asking from Trump, I'm not asking you to sit here and do like, you know, what would have happened if all I want from Trump is just tell us what you're going to do. Well, we already know what you're going to do because Orban snitched on you. But tell the American people who aren't paying attention to your shenanigans what you're going to do. Because I know what you're going to do. I know what you're planning because Orban snitched. Tell the American people that you plan to force Ukraine to cede more territory after Russia's second illegal invasion, second illegal annexation, and then leave Ukraine high and dry without any security guarantees, basically allowing Russia to reinvade at any other point in time. Tell the American people about that. Tweet about that. Truth about that. You won't do that, though. Instead, you'll sit there and give inaccurate, indirect answers to a direct question. Bro, Trump is a mess, bro. Look, that's it for part one of this. I'll have to come at it another time. It's 12 something a.m. right now. I gotta edit this tomorrow because I just have to. By the time this comes up, it'll be like afternoon of Sunday or whatever. But this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with Trump, who's a habitual liar. Just lies, 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 lies. Some of the stuff Biden said was inaccurate. Okay? The idea that, no troops died under his command, lie. But Trump's lies are just unbelievable. I almost don't even want to do the rest of the debate because it's just gonna be me like trying to correct Trump for the whole time. Bruh, I'm tired of this era of American politics, bro. I really am. This is just disgusting. And I'm disappointed in the fact that this is what we have to choose between. Two individuals who need to go home. They need to lay down somewhere. Trump need to go lay down somewhere. Biden need to go lay down somewhere. Y'all too old. Y'all are senior citizens. Senior citizens. Go home. It's not your time. The fact that this is what we're dealing with is insane. Absolutely insane. But this is what we're stuck with. We're stuck with this. So, if we learn anything from this as the American people, is don't allow the Matrix to tell you who we should vote for. Okay, if we got two old people, if we got one dude who's so old he can't function properly, and another dude who's so divorced from civility, law, class, decorum, reality that he's a threat to our nation's democracy, if those are our two options, we have got to box them out and say, sorry guys, we as the American people think we can do better. Instead, we've chosen to put these two people as our main guys. It's up to us. It is up to us. So that's all I got to say about this. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm going to cover the next half tomorrow. We'll get to it. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.